Hey guys, in this video, we are talking about 3 steps to pricing your auto detailing services in a way that works for you long term and helps you maximize profitability and minimize the amount of time spent on the detail. And there are 3, again, main things that we need to talk about here as we get started. So, as we watch the detail of this farm truck, or at least part of the detail here, this serves as a great kind of visual aspect to the audio content that we're talking about here, in that in order to price things like this the right way, you have got to have systems in place. And pricing is one of the major questions that I get all the time. So I want to break it down right now. In order to properly begin a pricing structure, the number one thing that detailers go wrong with, in my opinion, when it comes to developing a pricing structure is really not approaching it in a sort of systematic way where we approach the most fundamental thing first and then move to deeper and deeper things that are a bit more complex and require a bit more thought. So the very first thing that needs to be considered when you're trying to develop your pricing structure is what fancy people call your EHR, your effective hourly rate. In other words, what is the minimum amount of money that you are willing to work for on an hourly basis? Now, some of you might be thinking, Luke, I don't want to talk about an hourly rate because I'm not a wage slave and I'm not going to work just based on the amount of time that I'm spending. That's actually why I want to start my auto detailing business, because I want to be able to charge more than just some sort of minimum wage robot where I only get paid for my time, because that's what Instagram tells me I need to do. Instagram keeps telling me on my Explorer page that I need to read books that divorce my time from my money. And while I understand all of that, and I'm being a little sarcastic and condescending, and yes, a little bit of that is on purpose, the reason being is because all of those things are great, but in order to get to a place where all of that begins to actually take hold in your business and in your life, you have to start from square one. And many guys are trying to get to step 5 without going through 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's not working. So the reason why you have to develop an effective hourly rate, or the minimum amount of money that you will show up to work for, is because this is the very first element to your system that's going to allow you to create consistency in your pricing structure across many details. So let's talk about this. So how do you actually determine your minimum hourly rate? So just to define it really quickly, what I mean is this is the number where you say, I will not show up to detail a vehicle in any capacity with any type of job for less than this amount of money per hour. So let's just be like ultra conservative, and let's just put a number on it so we can have some sort of structure here. Let's say $25 an hour. In other words, I will not work in my detailing business for less than $25 an hour. Well, what this allows us to do is it gives us a foundation to actually move forward with a pricing structure. A lot of guys are trying to price things based on the size of the vehicle and the condition of the vehicle, and we need to consider all of that. But again, we have to start most fundamental, and that is your hourly rate. So let's just put $25 here just as an example, and hopefully to help you guys kind of conceptualize this and understand how to do this in your own business. $25 an hour is our minimum effective hourly rate. We will not work for less than this. What is the next step? The next question that must be answered is, what is the average amount of time that it takes me to detail X vehicle? So let's put it in a sort of generalized category. What is the average amount of time it takes me to detail a sedan, interior, exterior, full detail, an SUV, a small SUV, a Jeep, a truck? How do you figure this out if you don't have an answer to that question? In my experience, after as little as 3 details with any particular vehicle, what you end up finding is there is sort of this like range of a time that you consistently hit, no matter really if let's put it like this. It's almost like a bell curve. You have most of the cars in the middle that you see, they're just averagely dirty. And of course, you have the extreme in the tail ends. You have the extreme clean tail end. You have the extremely dirty tail end, but most 80% of your cars that you see are in this averagely dirty sense, and some veer towards the cleaner, some veer towards the dirtier end, but no matter where they veer, you still have not kind of passed the threshold of extremity or extremes where it takes you significantly more time on one or the other. So what I mean by this is, put in a very simple way, is you will find a basic amount of time that it is going to take you to detail any of these vehicles, depending on the size in particular, if they're in average condition. That is the question that needs to be answered. You need to have a time frame for that in order to move on here, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to set minimum prices as we multiply out these two factors of my minimum effective hourly rate and the average time it takes me to detail X type of vehicle. So to stay consistent with this kind of analogy or this like real life situation that we're doing here, let's say my effective hourly rate is $25 an hour, and the average amount of time that it takes me to detail out the exterior of a fairly muddy truck like this is 2.5 hours. So we have 25 times 2. So we're around $63, a little less, $62.5, okay? What that number is for me, this number serves as a minimum average that I can build a consistent pricing structure and system off of in my detailing world, because what I've just done is I have accounted for the amount of time that I'm going to spend. What ends up really hurting detailers in the detailing world is they want to do this thing where they say, I'm pricing based on the value I'm providing. I understand that. It totally makes sense. That is what you should be doing. But if you don't begin with the foundation of pricing based on covering your time completely, then you end up finding yourself in these situations where you spent way more time than you thought you were going to, and it doesn't work, and you say, oh man, I actually made less money than I thought I was going to, and anyways, you guys know the story. It's the same old familiar story with everybody. I spent way too much time, didn't mean to do this, da-da-da-da-da. What we're doing is developing a consistent system for pricing. So let's just stick with our example and continue right here. $62.5. What that is, like I said, is a minimum. So the step number one that we just covered is determining our effective hourly rate and the average time spent, and we develop a minimum, meaning I now know I cannot show up to detail the exterior of this truck for less than $62.5. Okay, USD. Alrighty, that is a very powerful piece of information for me as I'm trying to develop a pricing structure. Now, the next thing that needs to be considered is what everybody wants to jump to, which is, what is the value that you are providing in this particular situation that has a dollar amount attached to it, and how do you, number one, quantify that value add, and number two, add it into your pricing structure? Well, let's talk about some of the value adds that are obvious in the detailing world. One of the value adds that a detailer is going to be able to quantify and bring into their pricing structure are the tools and products that you're using. Are you using tools and products that allow you to get a better end result than the next guy? This is something that can be quantified. It's something that can be worked into your pricing structure. Hey, the final result here is better when you use me than it is with this other guy. And this is based on not only my experience, but particularly the tools and products that I'm implementing and the way that I'm implementing them. This is something that's quantifiable. It's very easy to work into a pricing structure. What is another thing? Well, what's another thing people value? They value their time. Would a customer rather have you working on their vehicle for 6 hours or for 2 hours? Which one would they rather have? They would obviously, 90% of the time, rather have somebody working on it for less time than more time, because it is more time for the customer to be able to get in their vehicle and do what they need to do during the day. So while I'm not advocating at all that you need to speed up your time and sacrifice quality, what I am talking about is over time, as you develop more experience in the detailing world, you will inevitably get faster and faster. I detail cars 10 times faster today than I did 7 years ago. It's just something that naturally happens. Well, that is also a quantifiable value add that can be added into your pricing structure that customers understand. And it's not necessarily something you communicate to your customer, but it is something that is worked into your pricing structure. Hey, I can cut to the chase faster. I can give my customer more of their time back. I'm not spending a ton of time, electricity, water wasted on things that don't matter. I've been doing this for a long time. Once again, another value add. To stop there, I think you guys understand what I'm talking about, but there are these more ambiguous concepts within a pricing structure where you say, okay, outside of just charging for my time, I do need to be charging for my value add as well. How you quantify that is going to vary person to person and business to business, but hopefully those two examples make a little bit of sense to you. Now, when you've done that, what is the third thing that needs to be talked about here when you're developing a pricing structure? The third major thing, and by the way, all of these things are developed over time in a business. This is not something that happens overnight. These are things that have to be thought about deeply. They happen over time and they happen with experience. The third major thing that needs to be thought about in a pricing structure is developing a pricing structure for what I call maintenance clients, people that you see on a regular basis, where the price comes down logarithmically. Basically, the price comes down linearly, but the time goes down exponentially. If you were to look at it on a graph, what you would see is that your timeline decreases with this huge steep curve, and your price line decreases very minimally and then plateaus at a certain level. And what you see is, rather than spending 5 hours to, let's say, make $100, just to put it in a sort of way that might be easier to think about, rather than spending 5 hours to make $100, you spend an hour and a half to make $100. Your time decreased exponentially, and in this particular situation, your pricing didn't decrease at all. This is a pricing structure that needs to be developed over time in a detailing business, simply because this is how you end up really implementing what I would call the ultimate system in a detailing business, which is divorcing your time from your money in the, what would I say, the maximum way that is possible in a detailing business. But when you develop a huge list of maintenance clients, you also begin to have leverage in order to divorce your time from this sort of money-making machine in other ways, other than just the fact that you're spending less time physically detailing. You're also able to train people much easier as you're seeing the same cars day to day. You're taking the same approach day to day. All of those things, it requires less training, it requires less product, it requires less time, it requires less tools, it requires less people. All of those things begin to go down exponentially, but your price does not. And this is something that needs to be considered in a pricing structure as well. Guys, I hope that helps from a business perspective of how to think about your pricing structure. Please comment below with any questions you have. And guys, if you like information like this, then hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so that you get notified when I post new videos, because I post auto detailing business information like this all the time. And by the way, I have a completely free guide available to those of you who want to start in the auto detailing world. Below in the YouTube description box, click the link, grab the free guide. It is a free 13-page document that I wrote up on exactly the tools and products that you need to start your auto detailing business for under $500, so that you don't have to waste time and money on products and tools that don't work, and you can shorten your learning curve as you're getting into this business, make way more money, and spend way less time being frustrated. Guys, hit the like button if you like this information, and as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, thank you for watching, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video.